What's up, guys? I am Alex the Whyzer Owl, and this is my 2021 in the bag. So it has been a long time since I have done an in the bag. I believe my last bag theory video was at the end of the 2019 season. So it has been a while since we've looked at what's in my bag. So the quick explanation of the first video was that when you're building your bag, make it as consistent as possible around one flight path that you really like, then build your different distance increments of that flight path, and then taking either the same disc in a different plastic or in a different stage of wear to sort of move right and left of the fairway. In the time since that video and now, I've learned a lot of lessons, and probably the biggest one that I've learned is how quickly you can slide from I want to be consistent to I'm too stubborn to change anything. I still believe that being consistent is the #1 way to become better on the course and more confident on the course. But once you start being too stubborn to make changes in the name of that consistency, you're really gonna stunt your growth. So in line with that, I've evolved a little bit, and as I go through the changes in my bag today, I'll try to explain how that evolution happened. So let's get right into it. So the core disc in my bag is still the same, and it is the 750 F3, the old bar stamp one. These are absolutely money. I think it's the best disc that we have ever made. You throw this 750 flat, it's gonna turn a little bit and then fade for a net neutral flight. If you put it on a hyzer, it's not gonna stand up. It's just gonna hold that hyzer the entire way. And the same thing with an anhyzer. This is just a really, really consistent and workable disc that if I need to execute a shot, whether I'm bleeding strokes from a couple tough holes, or I need to hit a really tough gap, or I just need a shot that I know that I can be confident in, this is what I'm reaching for, my 750 F3. Working off of that, I have a 2011 Finnish champion Seppo Paju 400 F3. This F3, if you throw it flat, it's gonna tilt, and it's just gonna hold that tilt for the entire flight. It doesn't really turn over so much as just drift. This isn't gonna roll. I can hyzer flip it up to dead straight, but this disc I almost exclusively use for that just slide to the arm side and keep going that way. It's never going to get off of like this angle right here. So if there's more headwind or I need to get more right than that 750 F3 will get me, I will go up a little bit to the H1V2 in 500 plastic. And this I can just hit hard flat. It's gonna stay straight for probably about 250-ish feet, and then it's gonna start to tilt down to fade. So this disc, I know I can just hammer on flat and it's gonna finish. And if I'm throwing it into a headwind, I can trust it to just stay straight with a gentle finish. So from there, I will go to one of the newer additions in my bag, which is the F Model S in Duraflex plastic. Because right out of the box, they turn a little bit, fade a little bit. Again, that net neutral flight. So that's why I really like these, because they were really easy to come by. But also, this other older Duraflex F Model S has beaten pretty quickly into a really understable version of this. If I need to just get to my arm side with a sort of later turn, this is what I'm throwing. If I want that straighter flight or a hyzer flip, or I just want to try to put it on a hard hyzer and take some off of it to get it to fade, I'm throwing just the regular old F Model S. These are really nice because they're super cheap, super easy to beat up and cycle. I used to bag H3 V2s in this slot, and one of my big issues with that was I didn't have a H3 V2 that was really flippy for me, and like I said in my last video, I like keeping my mold count low. So yeah, these are new this season to me, and I'm really happy I made that switch because I was able to fill that sort of understable control driver without having to spend way too much time beating in an H3. Continuing to go up, we'll get into my X3s. I really like these 750 X3s. These bomb, and again, throw it flat, gonna give you that turn and finish at the end for a net neutral flight. These go really, really far. I can get these to about 420, 430 if I really need to get it, but I feel pretty happy living with these around 390 to 410. These are my pretty standard go-to distance drivers. If I need to get more hyzer out of it or a little bit of headwind, I'll reach for the Core Team Dickerson X3s, because these pretty much fly like an X2.5. You throw these hard and flat, they're not going to turn, they're just going to fly straight and then dump. They're really, really beefy for an X3, but they're not quite an X2. They have a little bit more glide than the X2. So this is really a good option for sort of a slight headwind. So if you can find these, they're great. Great run of X3. But if I need to get more to my arm side, or I want to throw something that's a roller or significantly uphill, I got a really lightweight 400G Katrina Allen X3. But this is a 167, which is a little bit heavier than I wanted. I had a 157 X3 that was just stupid flippy that I did a lot of really fun shots with. But unfortunately, I left that in the field. I got this hoping that, making it a lower 160, I'd be able to do the same sort of lines with it. And I've been really impressed that I can, even though it's almost 10 grams heavier. Now, one of the new additions that I made this year was based off of those Dickerson X3s. As I said, they're difficult to find, but they're still an X3. And when I played the MVP Open in 2019, some of those more open holes where the wind is a little bit more, unobstructed by trees, this wasn't as consistent as I wanted it to be, and it cost me some strokes. So, rather than just sticking to those 3 number discs, I added 2 X2s to my bag. Roll me a communications check. Okay. 1. You will fumble over your words and say X3 instead of X2. The first one is a max weight 750 X3. This thing is beautiful. It's a D&D stamped die that Ben Tucker did for me. But this is sort of my pure headwind hyzer, low skip shot, those things that I just need them to go right. So this X2 is a super lightweight 158 gram X2, and this is pretty much my dedicated forehand distance driver. I do not have a very strong forehand at all, so the lightweight really helps with getting that extra distance, but it still has X2 stability to it. So I'm able to roll my wrist a little bit when I don't have a consistent release, and it's going to fight out. And it's a great flyer that's really opened up the forehand part of my game off the tee. And I'll even throw this backhand for really far flex shots that will hold that turn for a long time before knifing out really, really hard. All right, I guess I'll get into my other specialty discs since I was just talking about a forehand specialty disc. So I have got my Limp Bizkit dyed F7, which naturally this is my roller disc. I can throw this hard and flat and it's just gonna tip right down to the ground and roll for me. I can take a lot out of it and just put a really gentle low ceiling hyzer flip into this. I really like the F7. It's just such an easy disc to throw, and I'm always surprised on just how far these will fly on a hyzer flip. So the other sort of specialty discs in my bag here are original H1s. This is a 750 H1 that my daughter did for me. That, you know, this is max weight and it just doesn't go far at all and it just fades hard. These I will throw for tomahawks and thumbers, really low skip shots that I need to just pound into the ground and let them skip up and ride. And then I also have a 151 gram OG H1. That's, for how light it is almost more stable than my other one, but this gets just a little bit more hang time in the air for if I need to throw a longer overhand. This is what I'm reaching for. The H1 is a great alternative to an X1 if the X1 is a little bit too expensive for your budget, but these are starting to get a little bit more expensive now too. So if you're thinking about pulling the trigger on one, do it now before they become X1 price territory. So I think the biggest change in my bag has come with mid-ranges and approach discs. As long as I've been throwing Prodigy, I have struggled with that spot because I don't jibe with any of our mid-ranges. I've never liked M4s. I tried with M3s, but I've never been totally confident in them. I don't particularly care for M2s, and my feelings on M1s are well documented that it's the worst disc we've ever made. When the M Model US came out, I was really impressed by this disc. I was a Comet thrower before I switched over to Prodigy, and this was the closest flight I have gotten to a Comet. It's just that really gentle, don't have to put anything at all on it to get it to just drift to my arm side. When these are brand new, they're a little bit more stable, so you get that nice hyzer flip to flat when you throw it hard, but the Duraflex plastic beats really quickly and then stays. It's not gonna get to like thrower beat. It just gets to that controlled turn and it stays. I'll throw this for some backhand rollers that I don't need to go too far, but I mostly use these for those like big turnover shots that I put a lot of air under and just let them float and coast. And I'll even throw some like low hyzer flips with this. This is a standstill hyzer flip disc for me. And when I do it and pull it off, it's just such a pretty flight. Dead straight, no fade, just nestles right under the basket. So I never had an overstable mid-range because I was like, I don't want to throw M1s, and the M3s just never got beefy enough for me. So I finally broke down and did what almost every Prodigy Pro does for an overstable approach disc. And I'm rocking the A3 finally. I've got two different A3s here. This first one is a board flat 500 A3 that is kind of confused and thinks that it's an A1. This thing is super beefy. This I can put on a really hard anhyzer, and it's gonna try to flip over and then say, no, we don't do that here, and then dump right back across. So this is sort of my like super harsh angle backhand approach disc, where this 400 A3, which is still flat, has a little bit more like I throw it hard and flat and it's just gonna go flat, 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 and then finish. Flies a lot like the Hornets that I used to bag did, and I severely missed that shot, and I'm so glad that I finally broke down and put these in, because I throw these a ton now. But the problem with A3s that a lot of people have is they feel a little bit weird in the hand, being so like blunt nosed and a sharp angle in and then a big bead. I don't like these for forehands. So I still bag A2s, but my A2s have sort of just become forehand only discs almost. I have this 500 A2, which is super overstable for those like flex forehand approaches that I need to make sure that they're fighting out of. This guy right here is sort of my catch-all A2. It's my 300. It's that old, really stiff plastic that I throw this almost for all of my forehand approaches on any angle, but I'll also backhand this a little bit too, because it's just not as oppressively overstable as that 500 one is. So this probably gets the most use of all of my approach discs, is this one. And then this is another really lightweight 153 A2. This is my like turnover flick disc that if I just need that line because I can't backhand it for some reason, I need to sort of step out and do it. This is the one that I'll use because it's got that A2 stability, but it's super lightweight, so I can sort of force it to hold that anhyzer for a long way before flattening out. Lastly, we've got my throwing putters, which I absolutely love. They're all PA3s. Probably the most fun disc in my bag is this super beat up 200 PA3. I've had this in my bag. This might actually be the first Prodigy disc I ever purchased, like 6 years ago. It's waffly, it's dimply, it barely has a bead left on it, and this just turns, but it doesn't flip. It's just throw it hard and flat, and it's just gonna go and drift off to oblivion. It's never gonna cut too hard, but it's just gonna tip and turn forever. So then I've got my 3 Glow PA3s, that is 3 times the amount as the last time. I really love Glow PA3s, especially the old runs that have the small Prodigy and the big glow, and then the little glow in the dark stamp that's on the top. It's almost like a bar stamp. These are money if you can find them. I got this brand new one from Cam Rose. Thank you so much for giving this to me. This run is great because you throw it hard, it's gonna slide a little bit to the arm side and then finish for a dead straight flight. I really like throwing these. These are sort of my main like driving putters because again, it flies just like that F3 does. But I've sort of added some complements to that this year. Starting with this one from that same run, but for some reason this flies like a PA2. It's way more overstable and is sort of my like driving with a finish putter. If I don't want that little turn that I'll get out of the other one, I'll just rip on this one because it stays dead straight and then finishes. So a really nice complement to that if it's a little bit more windy or if I need to get some right action off the ground when I throw it. This is sort of my approach PA3 because it's soft like a 300 PA3 is on the ground, and it's a little bit less stable than my other Glow PA3s. This one doesn't have much finish at all, and I need to kind of finesse and take it off to not have it turn over. I can throw this hard and flat and it'll track a lot further and finish flat. So it's somewhere between a neutral PA3 and that super beat up 200 one. Last but not least, we have my putting putters, which are 300 PA3s with the Conquering CHD Echo the Owl stamp that we did in Heart Month for both my daughter Indiana and Will Schusterick's son Liam. These discs will never leave my bag. Number one, because I'm very heavily involved with that organization. And number two, because why I changed to all red is to raise awareness for the #1 birth defect. So long as I play the sport, I will be using putters with these stamps on them. Can't really say enough about the PA3. My hand is just molded to these now. Any other putter just feels foreign and weird in my hand. I putt with a little bit of Whyzer. They come out nice and clean, go right into the basket, and I love them. You know, some people prefer 350G, but 300 is the perfect tack and stiffness for what I like in a putter, and I don't see myself ever changing off this. So that is my in the bag. Hopefully you guys got a little something out of that, and yeah, I guess that's it.